First look, and there's the GUREN SEITEN in all of its metal build glory. The Asymmetry Queen always had such a stunning silhouette on top of a super sexy color scheme. The red on red is executed really well, the color separation is apparent, you can easily tell between the semi-gloss red from the maroonish red, the orange adds a nice complementary shade, and the translucent green eye nipples are a standout design. Maybe this is the GUREN's dragon scale qualifier, the dragon face on its body. Also, having a face on your body? Oddly reminiscent of a different GUREN. But before we get a bit too manly, let's talk about that head sculpt. Normally, the GUREN SEITEN's head comes off a bit too small. For the metal build, it is a tad more defined while retaining proportional correctness. It's just a lot spikier now. And in comparison with the older metal robot, you could say that the metal build team took an already sharp and edgy design and made it even sharper and even edgier. The metal robot is closer to the actual source, albeit being stylized on its own right, while the metal build takes even further stylistic liberties and still remains truthful to the animation source. It's clearly still the GUREN SEITEN, it's just a lot more now. Now, mechanically speaking, there are a few much needed improvements on the MB. First up, the slash harkens. How they attach on the metal robot always felt fragile. It's essentially a C-clip connection on the elbow, but they easily pop off, even if it's just a light bump. The metal build has a rounded die-cast peg, and the harkens connect easy peasy. Next up, the Radiant Wave Surger. I've seen multiple reviews on the metal robot, and it all had the same issue. The Wave Surger can't maintain its balance. It's really floppy. The metal build has no such problems. Really sturdy, really tight, really good. Pause. And finally, the metal robot doesn't have a toe bend. The metal build has a toe bend. Why is this relevant? That pose. The pose during GUREN SEITEN's first launch, and it's even the box art for the metal robot. Let's start articulation. To make it easier, the neck can extend. The head is on a die-cast ball joint. The GUREN's crown can go up and down. The slash harkens can fully rotate. They can also hinge side to side. The shoulder is on a ball connection. The right arm can go sideways, no problem. The right arm can rotate, no problem. There's a bicep swivel, a forearm swivel, a tight double-jointed elbow, and the wrists are on a swivel hinge. Both elbows have a bit of butterfly extension. The left shoulder pad can move up and down. There's a bicep swivel. Let's call it a triple extending elbow. The forearm can extend further. The Wave Surger hand is on a big ball joint. The fingers are on independent smaller balls, and the claws are hinged at the middle. The GUREN can crunch forward slightly. The GUREN can arch backwards slightly. And when you arch it far enough, there's added detail revealed on the dragon mouth. GUREN can waggle side to side. There's a decent spread, an impressive kick forwards, an impressive kick backwards, thigh rotation, a spiky double-jointed knee, ankle pivot, and once again, a toe bend, and finally, a pair of heel bends. Let's start accessories like always with some replacement hands. Another common accessory we have the action base. The only notable thing, and I mean notable in a bad way, is they basically gave up designing the base. I mean, come on guys, really? Connection is done via the small cradle, and we'll get to that later. Some gimmicks already on the GUREN include an opening cockpit. Unfortunately, there's no sculpted pilot figure. We don't get Kallen seated in one of the most awkward ways ever. Another gimmick is the missile pod opens up. I appreciate the novelty. I honestly forgot the GUREN even had this feature, but there's really no meaningful way of posing it, and the cover doesn't really have any means of storage, but still a nice inclusion. As common for Knightmare frames, we have land spinners, aka really big roller skates. Another common KMF weapon, we have the slash harkens. We can point them forward all threateningly, and even open them up ever so slightly. But since they are wire-guided weapons, we get a pair of identical long wires. Exactly how long? Here they are next to the Robot Spirits Gundam. They're also very malleable, so they can pose dynamically. The GUREN's only handheld weapon is what the product description calls fork knife. They basically gave up with that name, but it's still a finely sculpted knife. The blade opens up as a secondary option. Now onto the Radiant Wave Surger, we get an alternate forearm piece that makes it look a lot more explosive. This is Kallen going for the kill. Now what if I told you the Radiant Wave Surger is also a wire-guided weapon? We get a specific malleable wire for the Wave Surger. Don't even attempt to balance it on its own, use the included support arms, you get 3 of them, and they plug on the action base. They can also be used to aid the slash Harkins from earlier. And at last, let's cover the GUREN's wings. Even before we get to the energy part, this is an impressive set of wings. It looks so skeletal in its current state, similar to something like a Skull Greymon. Articulation-wise, the outer wings can go up and down, a bit of in and out. The inner wings have a tight in and out. This black piece can unlock, which lets us set the wings even lower and then lock it in place. And as you can see, that's a significant drop down. The point where the wings connect have a deep in and out, and it also has a tight rotation. Now enough messing around, let's get to the energy wings. And there it is, GUREN SEITEN with its very impressive wingspan. Surprisingly, it can pose without any support arms, thanks to the locking mechanism from earlier. But if you want to set the wings lower, the support arms becomes a necessity. I'm still not too keen on the patterns they applied, but thankfully it isn't as noticeable in person. There's nothing more that I would love than to call this a knockout execution-wise. However, there's a bit of a problem. The GUREN connects to the action base via the small cradle from earlier, and simply put, it's too small to properly lock the GUREN in place with the energy wings. Now without the energy and just the wings, it's a decent means of connection, but with the energy wings, you'll have to fight with it to get it to properly balance. And it can get frustrating and time-consuming even with the support arms. My recommendation is pose the wings first and then attach the GUREN afterwards. I cannot stress enough, make sure to balance it properly because it will topple. It has toppled during some outtakes. In a delightful surprise though, the GUREN can stand with the energy wings. But that kinda defeats their purpose, cause you know, wings. It's size comparison time, and let's bring out some of my favorite red robots. What better way to start than with 30 Ava Unit 2, Metal Build Justice, I Know It's Pink, Play Along, CCS Toys Shin Getter 1, the GUREN's namesake CCS Toys Gurren Lagann, my last Metal Build review High New Gundam, and finally, next to Metal Robots, Lancelot Albion and Shinkiro. Ever since the GUREN SEITEN's unveiling from 2021's online Tamashii event, it quickly shot up my most anticipated metal build list, soaring past the Ava Unit 0 and yes, even the High New Gundam. Even without my GUREN favoritism, the metal build hits all the high notes and it's a definite improvement over the metal robot. It had better be, that's 4 years of technological advancement, not to mention over double the price. But even with my GUREN bias, I simply can't turn a blind eye on the weak action-based connection. It is still functional, you just really have to fight with it when you want to post the GUREN with the energy wings. And even then, I can't shake off the feeling that the GUREN SEITEN is a few gusts of winds away from tumbling down, tumbling down, tumbling down. It feels so precarious. And that's not something that I want to feel constantly. A bigger, more secure cradle would have helped. So overall, if you're a fellow Guren supremacist, as in you really, really like the Guren Seiten, and you saved around 350 smackaroos, then why not treat yourself to a nice Black Friday, or maybe an early Christmas. But, as a friendly heads up, the Guren Seiten may be a beautiful figure, but it also has its fair share of frustrations.